Thank you. If we could stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's always great to hear the voices in the background. Okay. And if we could start with our roll call.
Manaya.
Present.
Jackson.
Present.
Ataseli.
Present.
Michaels.
Present.
Long, District 6. Long, District 6. Stout.
Present.
Parent Representatives. Hoagland.
Present.
Oasis High. Shade. Oasis Middle.
Present.
Soto. Oasis Elementary South. Absent. Rousseau. Oasis Elementary North.
Present.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And if we could have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. And how about to approve our agenda?
Motion to approve.
Dr. Manaya, I would like to make a recommendation that we move staff comment 13A, Oasis Elementary North Student Chorus, to 9A. Thank you.
13A to 9A. Perfect, great, thank you. With that change, approval of the agenda?
Motion to move 13A to 9A and approval of the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so let's go ahead with public comment. So we have public comment. Anybody who'd like to make a comment, you have up to 3 minutes, and we can allocate up to 45 minutes total for public comment. So if you do have a public comment, just feel free to step up to the podium if anyone would like to make a public comment. Okay. Not seeing any. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Mrs. Collins, anything you'd like to say before we vote on the consent agenda?
I don't have anything for clarification unless a board member has a question about any of the items.
Any questions on the items? Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. All right, so now we're moving into 13A.
That's part of
Our,
9A.
our 9A, 9A, or 13A moved to 9A.
So as a treat for the board this evening, we have the Oasis Elementary School North Chorus. We're going to sing for you. How old are the students? What grades are they?
So these are our returning chorus members from last year, because we don't start chorus until next year. So we offered it to our returners that are in 5th grade this year. So these are
Gotcha.
all 5th grade students.
Okay.
And we're going to scoot you this way just a little bit, friends. And we had prepared the pledge for you as well, but we'll skip that and we'll go right to the national anthem. So if we want to stand.
Oh,
for the
of course.
the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright
Thank you.
Gotta do something.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Jack.
That's okay.
All right. Now we can move to our superintendent's report.
We are on 9.
Test, test. Welcome, board and audience. Jackie Collins, superintendent. I'm going to keep my superintendent report short this evening. We have a lot to discuss on our agenda. But I did want to talk to you about two things, and the first being the FSSAT assessment tool. It's very important that the board is apprised and informed about this assessment tool, and I'm going to explain a little bit about it. The tool is used by our school administration in order to help identify threats, vulnerabilities, and appropriate safety protocols for the schools. It helps us to prioritize unmet school hardening project needs. The submission of these assessments allows schools to be eligible for state school hardening program fund grants, which you just approved in the consent agenda. Each school has received between $5,000 and $6,000 for this hardening grant. The document contains critical school safety information, so it is not available for public view. If we presented it to the board, it would be for public review, and that's not that's not a good practice. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the assessment and what it asks the principals to describe and to explain. This assessment needs to be completed by October 1st each year, and it's done in collaboration with the school resource officer. The administration is required to report assessment findings to the school superintendent, and then I report to you and the sponsoring school district as to how these school hardening dollars will be spent. So I want to give you a little idea of what areas are assessed in this document. This is probably a 200-page document that the principals have to go through in a variety of areas. They have to assess and talk about school safety training and procedures that are in place, what our communications technologies are, and that would be our parent communication tool, our loudspeaker, anything that fire alarm systems that alert, our security technology, and our security personnel. That would primarily be security cameras that are positioned all around the school. They need to focus on perimeter zone enhancement needs. Sometimes that's fencing. Sometimes that can be having bushes cut back so that we have a straight view to Oasis Boulevard from the school windows. They have to assess their internal zone safety needs as well. Those would be interior classrooms. That could be door locks. That could be window coverings over each classroom door window. They assess personnel enhancement to see if any additional safety personnel is required. They talk about their strategic security plan, their staging and reunification plan, and security lighting. So in addition, schools also have to guarantee certain safety requirements that are or will be met. And those requirements are, for example, Fortify Florida suspicious reporting tool must be promoted on every school's website and on each school's Chromebook device. They have to guarantee that they've established a school-based management threat assessment team, that they execute safety drills monthly. They submit a mental health assistant plan. We implement a mobile panic crisis system. We have a school safety resource officer that's present all times on every campus while school's in session. They have to report CESA-related incidents and have an active assailant shooter response plan and conduct training. So Dr. Minaya tonight, once the meeting is over, will also sign off on a list of guarantees that each principal has signed off on as well. We do it at the beginning of the year and we do it at the end of the year to make sure everything is in place. Dr. Minaya just did it at the end of last school year, so you'll be doing it again for this upcoming school year. So our responsibility is to inform the board as to what additional hardening measures we think we need at each school. And I'm going to say them very generally. I believe you have a copy of what each school asked for in your backup documentation, but generally it consists of additional door locking mechanisms so that it's easy to maintain a door that's locked all the time versus somebody having to go to the door to lock it. Window coverings for doors. A big one this year is additional Motorola radios, walkie-talkies for communication. We're adding additional security cameras in places where they do not exist currently. In addition to, we're replacing the outdated cameras because it's a 5-year replenishment situation. We are going to add an additional remote doorbell camera system at one of our schools. We're going to add outside security lighting and fence repair. So $5,000 doesn't go a long way, but we find that our schools are in really pretty good condition as far as hardening is concerned, and it's sometimes these little things that need to be addressed each year. So that is what the principals have decided they would spend their funding dollars on. Does anybody have any question about the FSSAT document? If you wish to see it, we can schedule a private meeting and I can sit you down and show you the questions on the document, and the principals can walk you through it if you'd like a particular school. Okay. My next topic is about the strategic plan that's coming up this school year. It's a big year. We have contracted with Doug Van Dyke with a company called Leadership Simplified. He's going to be our strategic plan facilitator. Doug offers customized leadership development programs and strategic planning. His clients have been pretty prominent: Amazon, Lockheed Martin, Johnson & Johnson. But the most important thing we liked about this vendor is that he has education experience. So he's done strategic planning and leadership conferences for University of South Florida, State College of Florida, and one school in particular we found very interesting is St. John's Day School. It's a private school in Sanford, Florida, about the size of our charter school system. We went online, we looked at their strategic plan that they have posted, and we talked to them as a reference, and they were thrilled with his ability to develop a strategic plan. So we thought he would be our best match. And in addition, something relevant that we're looking for is that he's going to lead us through this process, how a corporation goes through a process, so that we can develop and mimic this process moving forward in the future. We're not always going to have funds to pay to have a corporation come in and lead us through strategic planning. But if we learn the system as he's going to teach us, we can duplicate it for future years. So that's something that I thought was pretty relevant. That is our intention moving forward. So we've begun the process. We've sent out survey information to our stakeholder groups, and those stakeholder groups are governing and leadership, parents, staff, and students. The surveys close at the end of the week. We've gotten some pretty good responses. We're going to send out the parent link again because we've only got about a 25% response from parents. I know it's lengthy, it's long, but there are some key questions at the end that I think are critical. What are the strengths of the school or the system, the weaknesses, and what do you recommend for improvement? So when we get that survey data back, we're going to give it to Doug. Doug and I are going to sit down and analyze the situation and come up with some key points that we can then go to our roundtable discussion groups, which will happen in October, and really dive deeper into some of these areas that have come up, or maybe some new areas that we've uncovered. So those stakeholder groups we have scheduled on October 5th and 6th. They're going to be 2 hours each. We're going to start on October 5th in the afternoon with students, grades 3 through 12. Then on October 6th, we're going to meet with our governing and leadership groups, parents, and staff. So the governing board leadership group will be from 3 to 5 p.m. on October 6th. We have a seat for everyone on the board. If you can make it, that would be wonderful. It will be a 2-hour discussion where we'll dive deep into some areas of improvement and our vision moving forward for the next 3 to 5 years. Those groups are going to be about 15 people. I think our leadership group will be larger. They'll probably be about 20 to 22. But the other stakeholder groups will be between 12 to 15. So we'll have a handful of stakeholders from every school participating in those groups.
What's the date again? October what?
October 6th is for governance and leadership. October 5th is for students. And then we have scheduled the day-and-a-half strategic planning meeting on November 13th and 14th. And then there is an extensive plan once the strategic plan concludes to analyze and develop actionable goals and actually develop the plan. And then we have many follow-ups after that with our leadership group and Doug Van Dyke to follow up and make sure that those actionable goals are being put into place. So he's going to kind of take care of us from now until mid-February. And then he said at any time, if we want to shoot some ideas after that, we certainly can. So I think we're getting a good amount of training, leadership training, and developmental skills moving forward. I want to call him Dick Van Dyke. Remember Dick Van Dyke from
Right.
what? From,
Mary Tyler Moore.
what
Dick
was
Van
it?
Dyke Show.
Yeah, Bewitched, wasn't he? Anyway, so I have a hard time struggling to call him Doug. But anyway, he's a wonderful person, very easy to talk to, very willing to, and eager to get started, and we will do that. And the last thing I wanted to mention in my report was that I attended the Florida Governance Conference 2023 with Dr. Manaya Makisha Attiselli and Kathleen Paul Evans. And I don't want to steal the thunder from Dr. Manaya because he will be talking about this, and I'm sure Makisha will too. It was probably one of the better governance conferences that we went to. We all went to different sessions. I went to a lot of the leadership, a lot of the legal, legislative update components. I just want to make sure that our interpretations of the law match what the Charter School Support Unit interprets them to be. And then Kathleen went to some different avenues, and so did Makisha and Dr. Manaya, and I'm sure they'll be happy to share it with you. If you can do it, it's usually on a Saturday every year in the fall. You can attend sessions. You don't have to. Their sessions are about 45 minutes. They give you a lengthy lunch break. It's really worth attendance because you get so much additional information that you might have remembered, you might have learned in previous years, but you forgot, or something new that's come up that we really need to address. Kathleen and I have been talking about offering to host it here in one of the upcoming years so that we can all get together here and we can bring in folks from the outside. It's held in a school in Jacksonville, a gifted accelerated school, I believe, so there's no reason why we couldn't do it here, especially with all of our new technology and sound system equipment. So that's coming down the pike. We made a lot of good connections with other charter schools. I feel like we're right in line with what the other charter schools are doing. There's always room for improvement, but it was very, very valuable, I thought. So, anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm all set.
Okay, no questions? All right, our report from Mr. Mason.
That would be me, thank you.
Do you want a microphone, Mark?
I don't know, do I need a
I don't know
microphone?
if you
Do I need a microphone? Yes, it's recorded. Okay, I need a microphone because it's recorded. Okay, thank you, Chairman and I appreciate it. Board members, for the city, right now, we don't really have anything. We are working on the, I forgot what they were called.
Service level agreement.
Yeah, service level agreements, thank you. I do have them, and they're in the queue to work on them. So we'll get them back to the board here shortly, probably by the end of next month.
Did you turn off the microphone?
If not before. Other than that, I don't have anything, but I got the next item on the agenda, so if you want me to talk about that one, that's
Sure.
where I'll go. Okay? All right, so if you'll recall, we agreed that the city of Cape Coral would lease buses and then turn around and lease them back to you. All right, as part of that programming, we have leased the buses. You are in fact using those buses. However, we need to enter into a lease with the Charter School Authority in order to make that work. We looked at two different options. We looked at a standalone lease, in which case we'd have to do a standalone lease each and every time we did one, or we would simply open back up the master lease agreement and add a paragraph in there that authorized the lease agreements pursuant to a schedule, and that each and every successive one would automatically be authorized by the agreement. So we've added that information in there through the good offices of the city attorney, that would be Mark, and at the same time, we went through the agreement, and in section Article 4, premises D, as you'll recall, we modified this the last time we approved this for the city to basically take on all the responsibility for the maintenance of the buildings. All right, so after we looked at this, and we've had this continuing discussion regarding the half-cent sales tax associated with the school district, my concern is, and has been, and continues to be, that if we have an agreement with you all where you have no responsibility for maintenance, et cetera, I don't know how you apply to the district for maintenance funds for the schools when you don't have any responsibility for them. And so what we've done is we've changed the language in here that basically says that you will be responsible for it. However, as long as you don't have the resources for it, the city will continue to maintain the facilities until you do. In which case, now you're back responsible for it until such time as, you know, the resources again become available. And this modifies the agreement that basically says you are responsible for it. However, we recognize that you don't have the resources for regular maintenance in the facility based upon the the current resources for the charter school system. So the city will continue to maintain them until you have such resources available to you. In which case, that would be if the Lee County School District elects to renew the half-cent sales tax, then by law, charter schools would automatically share in those. But we want to make sure that there's a mechanism for you to share. And this is the mechanism that provides for that. Okay? And last but not least, in, let's see, Article 5, Insurance and Indemnification under Insurance 1, we're correcting a scrivener's error. It actually said lessor's insurance, and that lessor, that would be us, would maintain the insurance, et cetera, on the schools, but it was, frankly, since the beginning of the development of the schools in 2004, it was Article 5,
Article 5.
A, Insurance 1, which is on 7 of 14.
7 to 14.
We're correcting a scrivener's error. Since the beginning, the charter school has always picked up the cost of their insurance, and frankly, even now, today, I don't know why it said lessor, but it should be lessee, so we're correcting the language in the agreement. So there's no misunderstandings what it means. And that's the three areas in here. Yes, I believe you need, yes, I need a vote from you all to do this. We're going to be putting this on the agenda next Wednesday for first reading with adoption on October 4th for second reading.
Question?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, is that what that means?
Yes.
Yes.
Since we don't have the lights, this is the
Okay,
question.
that's cool.
She's bidding on something.
Who knew?
Okay, here you-
She gets the winning bid.
Okay, can we go through each one individually, because I did look at the changes and I do have some questions.
Sure.
So on page 3, which is the addition of subsection D,
Sure.
I have read that first sentence 10 times. It is not a complete sentence. I'm not sure what it's supposed to say. There's gotta be some words missing, I just don't know what they are. But it's an opening thought and then it's not finished. So I would ask that whatever the intent of that sentence is, that it gets clarified.
The first sentence, I'm sorry.
Okay, so the first sentence says, any lease entered into by and between a lessee and lessor, lessee being the charter school authority, lessor being the city of Cape Coral, for the operation of the premises and the fulfillment of the lessor's charter, which we have the charter with Lee County School District for the charter school authority, listed and identified in Exhibit B, in which case Exhibit B, if I'm not mistaken, lists the, we did include the Exhibit B, right? Which is the, there's a schedule for the lease payments.
It's still not a complete sentence.
Attached here and incorporated herein. So what, is that, Mark, you wrote it.
Missing something.
What's it missing, buddy?
Any lease entered into between the lessee and lessor for the operation of the premises and fulfillment of the lessee's charter listed and identified in Exhibit B attached here to and incorporated here by reference.
If your pleasure is to correct it here at the board meeting, we can wade through that, but I see your point, and I would ask your continuation of this to the next meeting and have us reword it so it does
No, I
address
don't,
your
we
concern.
cannot go to the next meeting. I need to have it approved by
Just include it
9:30.
in our motion that we incorporate that language.
The next city council meeting is the introduction. If it's just
Correct.
this
We have time to get it on the city council agenda
Yeah,
for the
so-
20th.
October 20th,
No,
September.
next week, yes, we have
But the
time.
second reading is going to be in October, which will give us an opportunity to bring it back to this board.
If everybody understands that we're gonna put it in there, the additional reference to attached here to and incorporated herein by reference.
I think that's the point. I think that's the.
Is that what the
board members'
language
So
is
the
good?
point of the sentence that the lease has to be entered into for the fulfillment of the charter? because it just doesn't read that way. It's,
I think it's any lease entered into by and between the lessee and the lessor for the fulfillment of the lessor's charter.
Maybe that's the word that's missing. Is for the operation of the premises and fulfillment of the charter.
Dude, you tell me, man.
I'm okay with that change. Let's go through the rest of your changes and see how many changes they're going to be.
Okay. The next sentence says that the lessor will charge the lessee a lease fee for the leased property, which amount shall be the sum the lessor pays for the debt service for the leased property, including all debt service related costs, forecast, maintenance, and repairs. Those are specifically listed below, and I feel like it should say that. It's as identified in the exhibit. Otherwise, it's very open-ended and those amounts can change, and I'm assuming that it's specifically budgeted for. Everyone understands that the numbers that are listed in the exhibit are above debt service numbers, and they're not gonna change, is that right?
No, I think the intent is for it to be
Okay.
open-ended so that it can be changed without the requirements of a formal meeting like this, that things can be added and subtracted.
And that's what the part gets into, I guess, next, right? The lease fee may be paid monthly, quarterly, semi-annually. Additional lease property may be added, replaced, or substituted as the case may be.
Yes.
And it can be added, okay. I mean, what that does allow for then, of course, is unknown amounts in the future. It can be changed at any time.
You will always know what the amounts are because they will be included in your budget.
Okay,
We're not gonna go lease anything until you know that we're leasing it. And generally, we don't lease things unless you've asked us to lease it, because that's how the ordinance reads.
okay. Then I'm comfortable with it, I just wanted everyone to be aware that it does leave a very open-ended amount for that. Okay, and then the maintenance section, which is on page 14. You did talk about it and explain the rationale was to allow for the application for the funds. We don't have those funds today.
I'm sorry, which page? I'm sorry.
Page
Four.
4, which is
Oh,
for
page
the-
4 of 14,
yeah,
yes, thank
the
you.
sufficient funds change. Are we applying for those funds? Do we know when we may have those?
So
You want to answer that, or you want me
the
to
Lee
answer
County
it?
School District has to reapply by referendum to do another sales surtax, the half-cent sales tax, in 2028. The current one expires. So by statute, the next time they apply for a sales surtax, they have to share those funds with charter schools for things like capital projects, technology, capital maintenance. We don't know how much those funds are going to be, but we're afraid we're afraid we'll miss out on those additional funds if it is clearly stated that the city of Cape Coral maintains all the maintenance and the capital repairs on our buildings. So that's the nature behind this. And so 2020, so nothing's gonna happen until 2028, when it goes out for another referendum on the ballot. All right, Mark?
Yeah,
Me, Mark, or Mark?
Me, Mark Mason.
Yes, that's true, right, yes.
So the original one that went out, 2018, they didn't include charter schools as part of the, and the Lee County School District has opined that because it didn't include charter schools, they're not gonna share any of the half-cent sales tax with any charter schools. About a month, 2 years after that, they changed the law and said, well, if you're gonna go out there and do it again, you're gonna have to pay, share with the charter schools. So it's kind of like, that's what happened. So do you have that now? The answer is no. But frankly, I think the lease should reflect the fact that you all have the responsibility. You just don't have the resources today, but when you do have the resources, this lease won't need to be modified if and when they do it in 2028.
May I
Yeah.
piggyback? So I know that this master lease goes until 2026. We are not eligible for the half-cent school tax until 2028. So there's some time in between there as well.
There is.
And what constitutes sufficient funds? That's a very relative term. That could mean something very different to our next liaison in 2028. That could mean something different to the next mayor. That could mean something different to the next city manager. They might read this contract and say, well, I think you have sufficient funds. The contract states you're supposed to be responsible for it, therefore you're responsible for it. So it's kind of vague and ambiguous a little bit. So how do we correct that? Especially when our timeframes are quite a ways off. This master lease is 2026, and the half cent's not till 2028.
We did this for 15 years.
That definition wasn't defined on purpose. That anticipated a discussion at the council level and at the board level. So we wanted to craft the language wide enough so that if there was an allocation or an appropriation by the state, that we wouldn't be tripped up by our own agreement with you. That we wanted to have the language wide enough so that we can say, no, the charter school does have primary responsibility.
We completely understand that, and we appreciate it, and we would love to pay for it with these funds when they're granted to us. I'm just afraid that it's maybe too ambiguous, and then we might be cornering ourselves into something.
Well, I think at the same time, this isn't just a half-cent sales tax, this is any funds. At the end of the day, I think the state is changing how the funding or the PICO funding is going to be reallocated or allocated, and from the school district versus from the state. So potentially the PICO funding actually increases because of that. I don't know the answer to that until it actually happens. And so there is a time when you may actually have the resources that it isn't even related to the half-cent sales tax. State of Florida might actually, figure out that they are still ranked 48th in the United States with regard to funding schools, and they might actually increase the funding for schools. So that might occur. So there's a lot of different ways that might happen, and I think it's important that we leave that open.
Do we think
With
that
regard to how
wording
that-
is the way to leave that open? It's
Yes,
not
absolutely.
Too ambiguous? It's not.
I personally don't think it's too ambiguous. I think it's important that we recognize that the responsibility still remains with the schools. However, without the resources today, we will continue to maintain them. City Council has made that commitment, but at the same time, if resources do become available to you, regardless of where they come from, then we need to rethink that position.
I would think we would rethink that at that time, but.
Board member, your concern may be addressed by our discussion on the service level agreements. When we get to the service level agreements, you will have some ability to concrete those relationships to the extent of the term of the service level agreement.
Okay.
If that is any consolation.
I'm sorry, Ms. Michaels, for.
It's
I think
okay.
we're on the same level there, though.
Those are the same concerns that I had. It just seemed very open-ended and doesn't necessarily tie sufficient funds to funds that are allocated for this type of expense. And so to me, I was like, should it say when we have sufficient funds that are allocated for maintenance type expenses? I worried for the same thing. It's like, we have sufficient funds if you pull them from teacher salaries or if you pull it from somewhere else. And so that was the concern that I had is, should we be a little more prescriptive about the types of funds?
If there's no objection, I can, instead of these items, I can tie it back to repair, construction, reconstruction, and improvements, or capital projects.
I was thinking that it would maybe be that are allocated for those or that are, I'm just drafting here on the fly. Yeah, or maybe budgeted for those.
I think allocated is the word.
You think
I
allocated?
think so.
Would appropriated for capital improvements be sufficient?
Yes,
Better.
absolutely.
So instead of recurring to pay for these items, recurring to pay for appropriated capital improvement projects. Is that what I said? Okay.
Does the board need clarification on a capital improvement project?
I do have some
Just incorporate
suggested
the
language.
Statute for the sales tax.
Well,
That
yeah,
would
there
just
is part
swallow
of
every
that,
one of those.
yeah. I was going to suggest that when the lessee has sufficient resources, and you would actually identify what resources mean. Resources that are not specifically earmarked for normal operations of the school.
Okay.
That takes it out, that takes it
Yeah.
away from the
That's
need for teachers or any of that other kind of
Yes.
stuff, because we're not gonna take money away from teachers.
Right.
Otherwise, we might as well close the shop. right?
Earmark
Okay,
is exactly what I was
all
looking
right,
for.
no worries.
Please understand, we don't think that's
Say
your
it, you
intention.
got it?
I wrote it.
Good, I'll take your
I was
copy.
flipping it the other way, saying earmark for these, but I think that's
Right.
right. When it's
I
not
think
funds,
we're-
they're earmarked for
yeah.
everything else.
I think you were looking for understanding what the resources or sufficient funds meant. So
Yes.
that I think actually just says it, right? Okay.
Yeah, and I was also worried about the timing, but I guess I understand if we would go ahead and get this in place now versus waiting until, because the lease expires in 26. And then I was gonna ask about the insurance, but you already explained it, so it's just a.
Why did we do 5 years?
And that's all I have.
I didn't, hold on.
I would just say for the first part, and I think at the root of Board Member Michael's comments is the fact that what we're doing here essentially is exchanging convenience, someone's convenience in this case, and giving away the ability for this board to create or decide on specific matters. We would basically be allowing for unilateral changes in some instances under some of these provisions, which I think was sort of the core point that you were trying to make. And that's a decision that the board's going to have to make here, but just be aware that, not that there's going to be any bad faith on behalf of the other party to this agreement. It's obviously not the intent, but there always is, of course,
There's
the
new players.
possibility that certain council members have short memory, or council members change every 2 years, and half the board essentially changes every 2 years, or is up for election every 2 years. And so what we would be doing is creating an open-ended portal, so to speak, for someone to make unilateral decisions, or this collective body, by way of the council, to make changes without the need to come back before us. And so Mr. Mason said, sure, you inadvertently, you could make a change in the form of reviewing the budget at the end of the year, but at that point, you would be using the budgetary decision as a mechanism to modify a lease. If we go back to the first point, and that seems unconventional. So just be aware that for the sake of convenience, you guys are, or the board itself is giving up the ability, which is maybe the point, to have to come back here and make decisions on an annual basis, or every time the lease reoccurs. But the board may have a desire to have that ability. So just something to be aware of. Thank you.
I do want to point out one thing, that the lease term actually it's originally for 5 years, but it automatically renews. Unless you give notice 180 days in advance of the 5-year renewal, automatic renewal. So this is really an open-ended lease for a very long period of time, because it automatically renews itself every 5 years, unless somebody says, hey, I want to change that. Okay, so it's the reason why the 5 years is originally 5 years, but it automatically renews. So by the time 2028 comes around, you'll be in an automatic renewal.
Well, I would assume we'll come back to the table for something like that.
I think the one thing that I don't necessarily want to do, I'd like to fix it today, because this is only a year into this lease. If we wait 5 years, and we wait however long the term is, then the school district, hey, look, I don't know what they're going to do. And frankly, I couldn't even predict what they might do. But they might look at you and say, hey, you're just changing the lease just to get our money. All right, well, I don't want to do that either. I'd like to make the change today. Inadvertently, we did not think about that when we really originally wrote this. And I think had we thought about that, we would have added the language that you see in here today. That ultimately you're still responsible, but without the resources available, after you turn around and budget everything for normal operations, the city will continue to do what it's been doing until you do.
And budgeting for normal operations is that should.
That is the normal, first and foremost, you do all of that before you do anything else. It's, you'd like to be able to, to budget for repairs, when you need them, but sometimes that's usually what you kick down the road until you absolutely have to. So we get that.
Well, I think we're fortunate to have some attorneys on board here.
Yeah.
So that gives me comfort. And really, I think it's great to move things forward. If you could share, why does it need to be today and not at our next board meeting, so our attorneys could have a little bit more time of reflection and potentially pose other questions. And your continued line is, you can have it. And fortunately, we did a good job of providing an attorney's view who deals with service level agreements all the time, provide a very detailed. So my kind request would be, you bring the service level agreements, we have time to review this, and then we'll talk about both of them. Having you present this has to be done now, when we've been saying we need the service level agreements a while back and still don't have them as a board, it doesn't seem like it's a, who knows if next month you're gonna come back and say, next month, but now I need this. And I've been in too many boards where administrations come in and say, here's what we need you to sign off because you're a window dressing board. We're not a window dressing board. And we really would prefer to have service level agreements solved before you present us with something else that needs a little bit more attention. But again, that's just one person's perspective. We can always make a motion. It'll be seconded. We can have some additional discussion and we vote. At the end of the day, that's the beauty of a board. You get to vote.
I think the service level agreements are going to speak to this a little bit too, so maybe they are pertinent to the vote. And did having a little extra time having a little extra time, I get it, time restraints, but is there any way that we can put this off until our next meeting so that we can have some time to digest it a little bit more and see what's up there? I mean, like I said, we don't think intentions are bad, and I don't want anybody to think that's it. We just want to make sure that, you know, we're doing what's right for our schools as well, and we don't think intentions are bad. So please don't misunderstand. It's not an adversarial thing here, and I think you can understand that as well. But we do have some attorneys that had some questions on it, and some smart minds on the board that would like a little extra time. So I would love that extra time as well. If we could table it possibly. And I know you need it, but he said the second reading is until October, right?
I think that's accurate, yes.
So that should give us a little extra time, I'm assuming?
Can we do a separate lease agreement for the buses?
Well, then we would be amending it
I mean, at
twice.
the end of the day, this is great discussion. Sincerely, thank you for bringing this up. It's gonna happen sooner or later, right? Hopefully really soon. Would someone like to make a motion? And again, when you make a motion and it's seconded, we have one more round of discussion and then we vote, right? And however that vote goes is the way that vote goes. So I'm happy to entertain a motion that Mr. Mason brought to the table and take it from there.
Would you like to elaborate and
Elaborate.
now that we've had that final discussion and kind of
Well,
discuss
at
where
this
where
point,
we're
you've
at,
asked us to make a
please
couple of.
give us input, 'cause that's what we're here for.
Right, at this point, you've asked us to make a couple of changes to the language that's included in here, so I think everybody understands what's needed in the document, and the reasons why, for the changes in the document. I recognize the need to have the service level agreements, we've had them, we've been working together for 2 years now, and I don't think that we're having a big issue with whatever services that are currently being provided by the school, by the city to the schools, with regard to the work that is actually being provided. So, I do have some of the rewritten service level agreements. I'm sorry that I have not gotten to them yet. But at the same time, I've not heard or felt or believed that there is a service level issue between the charter school and the city today with regard to the services that we're providing, that I'm aware of. Is there anything that I should be aware of? Jackie?
There's nothing outstanding at the moment, no.
Okay. So, and I will get you the service level agreements. I just haven't, we took all the information from Board Member Michaels, and they've incorporated those and restructured them. They actually set them on the structure of it, utilizing financial services structure. So I'm certainly hoping that it meets the terms and conditions of what we're all looking for, but I don't have them done yet. This is important insofar as I got an audit coming up at the end of September. I will own up to the fact that I did not get this done 6 months ago, when I should have. We've recognized the issue with regard to the maintenance portion of this, because I'm very concerned about how the school district will interpret our lease agreement. Whether you make the change today or you make it in 2028, I'm very concerned about how they'll interpret that. based upon their current interpretation of how they went out and they did, they put the half-cent sales tax out there and they made a decision that, hey, I guess a charter school is not a regular school. It doesn't meet the terms and conditions of what they consider to be a school. So that is a big concern to me. If it's not a concern to the board, and you think you can wait a month, yeah, you can probably wait a month to actually make that change. That's fine. As far as the actual lease of the use of the school buses, yeah, I do need that in writing. I need it in writing for the audit. I do need to have that. And the scrivener's error, if you don't change it, you don't change it today, or you change it a month from now or 2 months from now. We all recognize it's a scrivener error, and we'll continue to do what we've been doing. But if you elect not to vote for this tonight, based upon the changes that we've offered up to make, which seem to be acceptable from what I heard from everybody, then we can go on from there. If you want to have an agreement for us, you come back every single time we do a lease, I'm fine with that too. But we're always going to come back and tell you that, okay, we're up for the second tranche of the lease for leasing buses. We're gonna let you know that that's coming and that it will have an impact when the buses come in, which will be a future fiscal year. Won't be in the current fiscal year that you're currently operating in.
Thank you.
So those are all the things that I'm looking at as far as this agreement is concerned. If you elect not to approve it tonight, that's your choice. I do need to have the lease agreement, right, for the buses. And so I think from a practical standpoint, we need to strip that out then and do that separately.
Yeah, sounds right. Anybody like to make a motion to? Shelley? It's good stuff.
So
Thank
if we
you.
were to strip it out for the buses, what does that then look like?
It's a whole different agreement. I got a whole separate lease agreement. It's a document that just this small portion of it will be included in there, but it'll have additional information. It'll look more like this lease, but stripped down quite a bit.
Or,
Or you
Or
just
we-
accept that portion of it
Yeah.
and don't do any of these other things that are in here.
I mean, you say that portion, that's section D.
D, yes, correct.
Yeah, that's the one I honestly struggle with the most. Because of the way it doesn't specifically, the debt service isn't specifically referenced in the second sentence, and then the last part of the paragraph is so completely open-ended for changes.
Well, we offered up changes, didn't we? Didn't you?
In this particular case, we offered up by reference at the end of incorporated herein, by reference. And so there'll be a debt service schedule, which there should have been one here. I'm
There
not sure
it
as to
is,
why
but
there
it-
isn't.
but it
Okay.
But this language allows it to be changed unilaterally.
The change to it will be when you have another lease.
Which
Or
the city can enter into independently and then automatically change the exhibit B.
we only enter into a lease agreement with the board. We only enter into a lease on behalf of the charter school system at the request of the board. Otherwise, ultimately, there's no reason for us to do that, to enter in any lease on your behalf whatsoever. And again, it's basically included in our charter, in the ordinance that establishes the charter school authority.
I would just feel so much more comfortable if it actually said that.
If it said that, I mean, the ordinance says it. So the lease, this agreement is one thing, but the ordinance basically says that I'm not gonna go out there and issue a lease on behalf of the charter school authority without you all asking for it. Or that we're recommending it to you and then you've approved it.
It also says a lease fee may be paid monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually as determined by the lessor.
That would be
And-
me. Yeah, that would be us.
Right. But there's a schedule already, and so that implies that that could just be changed.
And even if
I
it
just
was
struggle
changed.
with when we're talking about a significant amount of money that's listed in the schedule, and then the way the language in this is currently written, there's a unilateral ability to change that, and I don't know how that works when we're budgeted. Just
Okay.
the two don't sync up to me.
When I'm creating a lease, I'm not coming back to the board and asking you, hey, can I do this monthly, or can I do this semi-annually, or can I do this otherwise? I'm creating the lease at the, at the best terms and conditions that is going to be available. So we're setting the terms as far as the lease payback is concerned. The payments back and forth between the board and us would more likely be on a monthly basis. Mainly because it includes also the estimated cost of repairs to whatever equipment that we're talking about that we would actually add in as the lease. And that amount will actually change. It'll change monthly. Whatever it is, whatever the cost of maintaining the buses will be, in this case it's about buses, or whatever equipment it is, that may change every month. So whatever the cost of maintaining the buses is, it is.
Mr. Chair, can I be recognized? Would it help the discussion if we tied the lease provision to any lease entered into by and between the lessor and the lessee made pursuant to Chapter 26? That's the governing ordinance that outlines the relationship between the charter school and the city. I hear the concern is that there's a tremendous amount of flexibility. It was designed that way on purpose, so I trying to rewrite it and try to keep the original intents of the flexibility, unless we just want to jettison the flexibility, if that's what the board's preference is.
Flexibility is like a variable interest rate. I mean, you never know what you're going to get. So for me, I understand the intent behind it in the city side because by and large the city's done a tremendous value to the charter school by entering into these agreements, and so we don't want to be a thorn in the side. But at the same time, again, like I've already said, and what Michael's is saying is that where is your sort of pain threshold for where we draw the line as far as allowing for that flexibility in exchange for the additional oversight, which potentially become at the expense of convenience and having to come before this board more often than not for that discussion or for that approval. I think that's the balance that we're struggling with here, and having to do it with fly.
Right. Thank you.
Is difficult.
I mean, the suggestion helps. I'm still just really struggling with the way this is written. It just feels completely open-ended and the entire discretion of the city. And again, I'm not implying that there was ill intentions, but there becomes essentially no discretion of the board in decision-making on leases.
I'm not sure I understand that there's no discretion on the board. The board cannot issue a lease. So from a discretionary standpoint, you're asking the city to issue the lease on your behalf. That's pursuant to Chapter 26. So if you want to put parameters on the lease and say, we're not going to do a lease if the interest cost is going to be 4.2%. We can do that at the board level. We'll go out, we'll do it. If it's over 4.2%, we advise the city council we're not going to issue the debt, and we won't do whatever it is that the school district is the authority's looking to do. In the normal course of business, that's not what we're looking to try to accomplish here. What we're trying to accomplish is that you've got a goal, and we need to be able to fulfill the goal. So when it comes to, school buses, we have a responsibility to do the school buses. The lease rate's going to be the lease rate, depending on what it is at the time that you actually do the lease. If you put a restriction on that lease rate, when it comes down to it, we're not going to have the new school buses, and we may not be able to provide the service of having school buses. So it's.
I mean, if the language is any lease entered into, right, and we'll charge a lease fee. The leased property, and it's just so open, number one, this doesn't even specify buses, and I know that was the intent, it was to be broader than that. But it's everything. The lessor will charge a lease fee for the leased property in the amount equal to the debt service for the leased property.
Correct.
And this could be amended without ever coming back. I
think all good points, and I think we've had good discussion. Why don't we, so here's how it would go. Someone can elect to make a motion. If no one elects to make a motion, it's tabled, right? Someone makes a motion, no one seconds the motion, it's tabled. Someone makes the motion, seconds, a little more discussion, we vote, and it goes one way or the other. So I'll ask again, would anybody like to make a motion to approve this lease? And I don't even know, with whatever changes you wrote down, that's not even a good motion, right? Because a motion should be with these specific changes. It can't just be, well, whatever was written down. So what, anybody want to help wordsmith an appropriate motion that somebody could make for this?
Yep, well, I mean, certainly we can talk
No,
about
I'm
what we.
talking to the board here.
Okay.
So any board member would like to wordsmith this in a way that is acceptable for even a motion? And sincerely, we're not getting too many people responding here, Mark. But again, let me ask it again. Would somebody like to make a motion to move ahead with this lease in a way that captures the input that we gave?
I would like to
Table
table it.
it? Okay.
Second.
Anyone else like to make a motion? Okay, so it doesn't look like we have a motion here, but it does look like we just need to do a little bit more work on getting this as close to acceptable as possible. And what's that process look like? Do you think you have enough information to do that?
So when the board tables a motion, it just tables it. It's not giving us any direction.
Right.
So I appreciate the sentiment that it's not ready, that you would like changes. So in keeping with the board's intent, it's a motion to table or it's a motion to postpone to a date, whatever the date is, and with the suggested following recommendations or the following changes.
Before you make that motion, clearly you're not going to move forward with what I have here, so I'm going to need to bring back a separate lease agreement just for the buses. And so I'm going to ask now that you all have a special meeting in order to approve it before the end of the fiscal year. My fiscal year, not yours, sorry.
How about a motion to table the master plan, but let's suss out the buses so that you can get done what you need to done? Is that a fair?
That'll be fine.
Is that, everybody's okay with that? And Mr. Long, you're the intermediary between city council and us, and I would love some input on that.
Well, I mean, I don't have any problem communicating to council whatever board collectively determines here, but as far as navigating that, I don't have any further input. I mean, I guess with regards to the first portion, which is a section that Board Member Michael said there was a problem with, how would we navigate that change? I don't mind pulling it out and extracting it so Mr. Mason can do what he needs to do. So I guess it would just be memorializing that in the right way as part of the motion.
Okay. So I would like to motion that we.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
There is a pending motion on the floor already.
Okay.
There is?
Which is?
I
thought the
believe
table
it
was
was,
not a motion.
Ms. Taselli made the motion to table it, and it was second, or Ms. Stout made the motion to table it, so let's dispose of the pending motion, or vote on the pending motion, or amend the pending motion that's currently on the floor.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion?
Yes. Sorry.
The tabling motion, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like we shouldn't necessarily be tabling this, because, well, in one way. I'm concerned about doing a separate lease for the buses, because I feel like we're not gonna have enough time, and that's just a whole nother thing. I don't understand why we're not tabling this so that we can actually amend the language here to get comfortable with, and then have a special meeting and to vote on an amended, a changed amended document.
Board Member Michaels, is that your amendment to the pending motion?
I was gonna vote nay on the table because I feel like it's a different motion.
Oh, okay, that's, okay.
So that's my discussion on that.
I motion to dispose of the table.
You have a vote on the pending motion.
You have to
We have to
vote
vote
on
on it, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so all in favor?
Yes, they
Yeah,
can redraw.
The motion maker, if it was their pleasure, could withdraw the motion, the second could agree. Would then open it back up for the discussion that we're having currently, if that was the desire of those individuals.
I motion to not table the motion,
To withdraw?
to withdraw.
I'll agree.
Okay, so that one's off the table. Now we get to the next one.
So I would like to motion that we, City Attorney, please help me with the wording, that we would like to have a special meeting maybe in a week from now, once we have hammered out the wording.
So if I'm hearing what you're saying correctly, you're saying, please postpone, or you would like to, you would move to table, you would move to postpone this item until the board's attorney can work with Board Member Michaels to craft language that may satisfy the board to be presented at a follow-up meeting at some time in the future.
What you said is perfect.
Okay.
Now,
When do you need that meeting?
discussion, is everybody okay with the
First,
meeting?
somebody has to second it.
I'm sorry?
The meeting now.
You would need a second, that's right, if that's your motion.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Further discussion
sounds
is
what I
when
want.
would be an appropriate good time for the board to
All
get
right,
this
well,
meeting
one minute to
accomplished.
discuss.
Thank you.
A week is
It-
sufficient.
it-
I'm
it-
trying
it-
to appease here.
At this point in time, I believe I need to have the lease agreement for the buses. What we tried to do here is make it easier by having it in a master lease agreement, and not have separate lease agreements each and every time we do a lease. But if that's the board's desire to do that, I'm fine with that. I don't have a problem with that. The language that we added in here with regard to the maintenance of the facilities, et cetera, I think is very important. And if that's, if you don't want to do that either, I mean, then don't. But I think it's very important that you do it. But I really do need to get a lease agreement for the buses. You're operating the buses right now, you're utilizing the buses, and I don't really have an agreement for that. And I take the heat for that and the hit for that because I didn't do it in a timely manner. But I do need to have a lease agreement. So what I'd like to be able to do is to come back with you and have you approve a lease agreement so I can get a lease agreement an interlocal agreement basically between the charter school and us for the use of the buses.
Okay.
Are we still in discussion
And
mode?
if it's not happening tonight, when would you need that by?
Yeah, well, I don't think I'm gonna get it on the 20th anymore, so, it's,
We haven't had this lease agreement.
but
We haven't had this lease agreement for how long, and now it's.
well, you just
still in
started using the buses
period.
in July, essentially.
Yeah, now,
So it's been 3 months.
exactly, that's a long time, and now we have just days before the impending.
Yeah,
Please acknowledge that. I think-
I've acknowledged
Now
that.
we're
I
just-
recognize that. It's my mistake for not getting it to you all earlier. I understand.
We're trying to come up with the compromise that works for everybody. The board needs a little bit of time, you're on a time frame. Let's meet them both. That should not be an issue. So, the board is being wide open on when we can have the special meeting. We are just looking for another day or two to go over stuff.
When do we have to have these stuff before the city council, by Thursday?
We can come back with both a lease agreement and an amended, and whichever they choose to be the best of the two options.
I'd have to have a meeting in 2 days.
Oh, the amended has to be by ordinance, and the lease wouldn't. Amended, no, it still would be two
Yeah.
meetings.
We're still in
It's-
discussion.
Mark, changing this lease to have the right wording, wouldn't that be just as time consuming or in a similar time frame than than creating a whole new lease for just the buses?
I would hope that the whole new lease is like 3 pages. You know, it's very simple, it's very straightforward. It says that we bought certain buses, we leased, you know, we're leasing 7
that's pretty
buses.
straightforward.
And, you know, charter school will simply reimburse us back for those
Would-
during the term of the lease.
So what if, here's
not-
my.
not hard here.
Here's my kind suggestion. What if, let's say we pick a week from today, we have both leases ready. The amended lease, and in our back pocket, we have the bus lease. So if by chance, in that meeting, we can't come to an agreement for the larger lease, which we should be able to, we have that one in our back pocket and get that one done.
Okay.
So does that require a motion?
I believe you had a pending motion on the floor that had been seconded, yes, so we would have to dispose of that in order to,
I will withdraw my motion.
and who was the second? Yeah, all right, the second withdrawal.
Hey, this is a parliamentary class here. Love it.
Sorry for causing this, I apologize.
Hey, man.
My
I love
bad.
these things.
This
I
is what a
love
board
it.
meeting should be about.
So the chair typically does not make a motion, so hopefully somebody would move your motion.
Somebody want to move whatever I said?
I would motion that I move to motion that we come back 1 week from today with a lease agreement for both the buses and a master lease agreement so that we can choose said agreement at that time.
And I'll second that.
I don't want to hijack your motion,
No,
and please
please.
pardon me. Is there still the instruction for me to work with Board Member Michaels to
There
to
absolutely
satisfy the
is.
language? That's part of the motion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Yeah, great friend who's a parliamentary superstar, he said, it's sort of like dancing. Unless you get on the dance floor and actually dance, it's no fun, right? So this was a great dance, so thank you, Mark, for bringing this dance to the table.
You're welcome. Thank
Any
you.
other,
I have nothing else other than this. Thank you.
all right.
It was my pleasure to bring joy to the board.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, how about we start, would you like to share a little bit about the conference?
Thank you. Yeah, it
Swear to
was,
God.
it was really neat. I didn't know what I was going to expect, especially attending one of these things virtually, but they did a really good job. The app was super handy. I logged on both during the Zoom portion and using the app, and I found it kind of neat. So I chose the different areas that being just like the things that I would have been interested in, like if I was just joining the board, like my first year, what would have been neat for me to hear? And so I just listened to, and it was just one of those things where I was like, man, I really would have liked to be there. And so when I heard Ms. Collins mention possibly wouldn't it be great to host it here, that would be amazing if we ever got that. But I found it, if anyone else gets an opportunity to go, it was very, very helpful. And they made it, like technology-wise, they made it very, very accessible as well. So I enjoyed it.
Thank you. And I attended about 4 of them. One was called Replication. So if you've got a good model and you've got a good system, when's the right time to consider, and should you even consider expansion, right? What I learned was we have an incredible model. A lot of these systems that are looking to expand, we have a lot of the processes in place. So whether we choose virtually, like a virtual charter down the road, or 5 years from now, we're an extremely strong system. So that was exciting to hear. There's another one was on the Florida Charter Support Unit. So this is a unit for all of Florida. They'll come in and help you with your system, right? So as an example, they'll come in and listen to our board meeting and give us, in essence, a little bit of a grade as to where we did well, where else could we improve. And that's at no cost, right? And let's see, what else? The one point that came up in 3 of the workshops that I was in is 75% of your board meeting should be on strategy, right? So great that we're going to be working on our strategic plan, and once we have that done, I mean, the consent agenda is phenomenal because it could be 5 items, could be 20 items in the consent agenda. And that reduces the amount of time in a particular board meeting. But strategy should be touched every single board meeting, right? So that was interesting to learn. And then the other one was that they actually have a resource library that houses all the webinars, all the workshops, I never heard that, I never heard that before. So there's this incredible library, anything, how to set up your agenda, to role descript, incredible. So we'll get you access to that, so if there's any of those workshops that you want to check. And they also have a top-notch podcast series, and they suggested that they'd like to feature great schools, great principals, so that is an opportunity for us to be featured there. Yeah, great superintendents. And I think the only other point for the chair's report is the mayor's scholarship gala is coming up. It's on September 30th. Is that going to be at the Westin? Does anyone know? It's at the Westin. So you can still get tickets. And I mean, as much as the city does for us, does with us, and as much as the mayor supported us, and I'm sure that many of our students get those scholarships, it would be great to see if a couple of us could attend, okay? And that's it for the chair's report. Foundation report?
Hi there, Jen Hoagland, Foundation Treasurer. A couple items. Our curriculum, academic, and sports and clubs grants are all now open. All the information is through our website, capecharterfoundation.com. So for all teachers, as well as all sports and clubs, advisors and coaches, we send everyone there, so they're all open. Our booster, as Gary had mentioned last meeting, the high school booster club, which supports all of the sports for the high school, is kind of being blended in with our foundation. We have a big kickoff meeting this coming Thursday, the 14th at 6:30 at night. It is going to be at Big Ten Tavern, which is at 4703 Southwest 16th Place, which is just off of Cape Coral Parkway, just past Chiquita on that side street, on the Omelet Shop side. We're going to be finishing off our kickoff for the banners that are along the fence. They all support, they could support special teams as well as athletics in general. That application is also on our website. We're going to be doing that through September 15th, and then those will kind of take a pause, and then we'll open that back up in December. So if there's any businesses, families, clubs, groups, anyone that wishes to support the athletics in general or for a specific team, and get wonderful promotion along the fence with a banner, that is all still open. Our rally again is October the 28th. Sponsorships are all open now, and we are actively looking for sponsorships for everything. That is also, everything's on the website. And the golf itself is also now open, the registration. We have early bird discounts going on now through October the 1st. And we are also offering staff and alumni from our system discounts. And we're actively also looking for auction items for our 31 auctions. So if there's any businesses, groups, clubs, anyone would like to donate everything from, it could be anything, it could be spa days, nail services, hotel stays, baskets of items to auction off. That all goes to support our foundation as well. I think that's all I have for today. So go to capecharterfoundation.com. Gary has updated our website. It looks awesome, and everything is on there. If anybody has any questions, we have our email as capecharterfoundation@gmail.com. And you're always welcome to ask us any questions or where to find any information. So we are in full swing. off to a good start, so, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move to, thank you. To staff comment. I think we have Tammy Daniels.
I've asked Tammy to join us to give us an update on the busing situation.
You need the. Did we pass that?
How about that,
I
guess so.
She's got the least done, all right.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
So I'm Tammy Daniels, Transportation Manager for the Oasis Charter Schools. So as of right now, I have 1,414 students registered on a bus. And that breaks down to the high school has 368 students riding. Middle school has 485 students riding. Oasis Elementary North has 263 students riding, and Oasis Elementary South has 298 students. When we started the school year on August 10th, I had 42 students on a waiting list already, waiting for a bus. As of this morning, I am down to 25. One of our high school routes, which has been the most popular, originally had 14 students on a waiting list. I'm now down to 3. People are coming off of them. They signed up and then they haven't rode. I called parents. Some of them, students have now gotten their license, so they're driving. Some of them, the stops are too far, and trying to walk to the stop at 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning is, they say, unsafe, so they've declined the seat. I have another high school bus that has 1 student on a waiting list. Middle school is the biggest waiting list. I have one route that had 14 students. I'm down to 11. That's another popular area and bus. Another middle school had 8. I'm down to 6. And my last middle school had 5. I'm down to 4. When I go through during the summertime assigning the buses, if their addresses don't match with the school system and the focus, I can't assign a bus. At the beginning of the school year, I had like over 30 students that did have like a no match. I am now down to 8. I email the parents, they change their address with the school, and then I can assign them a bus. And I've had about 15 parents that have declined the bus due to we having depot stops, which they're technically not meant for students to walk to the bus stop, but as parents, everybody works and some have to, and they're saying it's too far away because our stops are too spread out. So I've had about 15 people just decline just because it's too far. I think for next year, I think I really need a couple more drivers and a couple more bus routes to kind of help with some of the depot stops that are spread out. And I think we could get more students on a bus. I think the demand is there because a lot of people are signing up, but because our routes are so spread out and we don't have enough buses or drivers, it's limiting them. And I think that's why our car line is a little longer because they're not taking the bus. That's all I have.
Thank you. Question?
Sorry.
That's okay. What are we doing, or what are these 25 students that are on the waiting list? What do you think they're currently doing to get to school?
I think parents are bringing them, or maybe like carpooling. I know some of them are using the private transportation that's out there, where they have to pay money for. But I think that's what it is. It's either parents, or friends are bringing them, or they're paying for services to bring their kids to and from school.
Thank you.
Oh, another one question.
Just really quickly, with those 30 or so parents that you were saying that you had to kind of email because their addresses didn't match up in focus, was there sort of a common story? Did they not realize that they needed to keep it updated? just in sort of in advance of like next year?
I think some of them, I know personally some of them were like building a house or buying a house and it wasn't gonna close until like the summertime, and then I think they forgot. Some of them they just didn't do it. You know, I mean, I emailed most of these people in July, and I just got them all done probably the second or third week of school because they waited. And then they're like, well, where's my bus? And I'm like, well, you haven't a no match. You have to change your address at the school. So I think it just comes down, I think they forgot.
But Tammy is still doing attendance. Her bus drivers are doing attendance counts. So if a student doesn't ride 15 days out of the course of a 30-day month, then she'll call them and say, you need to ride full-time, or at least 15 days out of the month, or else we're going to have to remove you from the bus. We don't get funded from the state of Florida unless they ride at least part-time, right? Am I right? So she's still going through that process. The end of September will be a good time to really figure out who's not riding at least part-time, and then we'll pull them off the bus. Because parents make bus reservations just in case, or then they get their driver's license, like she said. So we should be freeing up more seats as we go.
Thank you. All right, and we have another presentation. Jackie Corey.
Good
Our new
evening,
principal.
everybody. Thank you all for your service and for giving of your time and being here tonight and all you do for our amazing little system. It is a great place to be. I have just been so happy to be a part of this system, and I feel like it's a blessing every day. It's just an amazing community, amazing kids, amazing team to work with, an unintimidating superintendent that you can work with and ask questions freely and talk to, a supportive board. It just is fantastic. I am going to share with you just how exciting it's been at Oasis High School, and I'm so proud to be a Shark. We did some exciting things over the summer when we came in, fast and furious. I mean, I came in the month of July, and Tim Loughran, if you've not met him, he's one of the assistant principals who's worth his weight in gold. Him, along with maintenance from the city and support, we repainted the school. If you have not been inside, I can't wait to have you guys come for a visit. It is beautiful. The lobby's gorgeous. We have brand new trees in the main office and the gym lobby. We've painted another mural in our STEM lab. We've just really improved the appearance, and it's very beautiful facility-wise. It's gorgeous. Staff training, we rolled up our sleeves. You know, it was wonderful having time with the staff during preschool. They were, you know, looking at me like, who are you? You know, so we had to go through all of the get to know you stuff and the expectations. But we had a great time. Our focus was talking about how we are going to engage students the entire 83 minutes, make learning rigorous, memorable, collaborative. We want to make sure it sticks. And research tells us 90% when a student is engaged in the learning activity where they're actively learning and engaging with their peers, it's going to stick rather than a sage on the stage up front. Now there's balance because we have a lot of heavy content to get through, especially in those Cambridge courses. But we really worked with our teachers about how we were going to look at our block this year, keep our students engaged the entire time, and change up that activity every 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, think about it when you go to training and you're sitting there and someone's talking to you. About how long do you last? They probably have you for about 15 to 20 minutes, then you're looking out the window, checking your phone, thinking about dinner, right? So we need to make sure that we're optimizing those engagement levels. And that's what we really trained our staff to do through Kagan strategies. There are management strategies, timing. Also think about when you were a student. There's also hogs and logs, right? Same kid's going to raise their hand every time. So we want to have those random selector tools so every student's going to be accountable for learning and know that they're going to be held accountable for the material and might potentially be called on for discussion items. So we really filled our teachers' tool belts, and you can see they had a lot of fun while they were doing it too. Some of the things we also worked towards, we wanted to make sure we had common board configuration in all of our classrooms so there was consistency for all of our students. You can see that on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see those table numbers are on every desk now so that I may say, table 2, seat 3. What do you think? In a discussion. So again, that accountability piece. And you can already see that our students are sitting in those places and working on that, even in a science lab. We wanted to make sure our learning environments were nice and warm, and our teachers worked really hard to make our classrooms look beautiful for our students because we want it to be inviting. We have just great culture. I was charged, I think, when I listened to everybody. I listened to parents, I listened to students, I listened to staff, and they really wanted positive culture. They wanted to be highly engaged in student life. So I've done a lot of work with student government, and these are just some pictures already from this year of some positive experiences we've had. We work hard in the classroom, but we play hard too. We had our first fall pep rally where we recognized all of our fall sports, and we engaged in that traditional let's make some noise contest. These kids are competitive. They are very competitive. We had some games during the pep rally, but I think it was more like the Hunger Games. But the seniors did earn the most points, and they won the coveted Spirit Stick. Athletics. Oops. These are some athletic pictures from this year. Our students are so talented. We are winning all kinds of medals in running. If you haven't been paying attention to our football team and you haven't been to a game, you need to come. It's exciting. There is standing room only on the side. They are undefeated. I don't know if that's ever been done in Oasis High School history. I mean, it's unprecedented. Ms. Hoagland, is it exciting?
It's so exciting.
It's so exciting. So these are some pictures of the kids. We've had a lot of fun. Volleyball, equally having a great season. It's literally, there's no seat in the house for our volleyball games. Our kids are doing themes, they're coming out, they're really getting involved. It's a lot of fun. Look at our parents up there on the right. They're involved, they're having a great time. This is a picture from just this afternoon. Went and spent some time with the bowlers. They're having a great time too. We have some really strong seniors in our bowling program right now. We've worked really hard to create a lot more club opportunities for our students. This is up on our website. It's in our Google Classrooms. There's something for everyone at Oasis to get involved in. Academic, non-academic, athletic, non-academic. You got to have a sponsor, and they've got to complete the paperwork, and we will offer that club for our students. All of our activities, by the way, are on our website, so you can access it at any time, so you can look far in advance to see what's going on each and every day at Oasis. As soon as something's scheduled, it's added to our website calendar, so it's at your fingertips at all times. We didn't have a school brochure. Look at this. Is this beautiful or what? I cannot wait to put it in your hands. We just finished it today. It is a beautiful brochure, and on it, it has the cover of our beautiful school. It has, in the middle, all of the amazing programs that we offer. We might be small, but we are mighty, and we offer something for everyone. I mean, from our Cambridge program to all of the STEM opportunities we have, right into the arts, culinary clubs, and athletics. You can get everything right at Oasis. I don't know why you'd want to go anywhere else. And then on the back is several pictures from all the different activities to truly display student life. What's the purpose of this brochure? We're going to put it on our website so people can access it and see it and learn what does Oasis High School really offer. We're going to show it to those wonderful kids that Donnie has because we want them all. And then any student that comes in for a tour, we will have something to put in their hands so we can be a class act. We want to be a world-class school system when visitors come in to visit and see us. So hopefully we will be tidying this up. We're just doing some final edits and getting this printed, and then we will also have digital copies as well. And I will make sure you guys get it as soon as I'm done. I cannot have any typos. I do not want to fail that lesson. So we're going to make sure we get it right. I've gotten a couple red marks. This lady over here has been fantastic with edits and helping me out, so thank you for that. But if you have not met the amazing McKenna Cray, she is one of our teachers. I think I took her from one of you guys. Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, that's a loss for you. She is phenomenal. She is our digital design teacher, and she helped with this brochure. We're moving on to something else I'll talk about in just a second. I have also been participating in Leadership Cape Coral, thanks to the wonderful Jackie Collins, who has allowed me the time to roll up my sleeves and fully engage in this amazing community. I think it's important as a steward of the school and leadership that I am very well aware of what is going on in Cape Coral currently. And I got to tell you, I graduated from Mariner in 1993. I was a fighting Triton. I kind of crossed over the bridge, and I've just been working in Fort Myers, living in Fort Myers, and I didn't pay attention. wow, Cape Coral. I am blown away by all of the amazing pieces that are going on here in Cape Coral. City has a lot to be proud of. We are really growing as a city and doing great things. These are some of the pictures of some of the things that we've seen and visited. We even had the pleasure of painting this wonderful lady's house already through Making a Difference Builders Care by pitching in and doing some community work. So this has been an incredible opportunity for me as a leader at this school to learn more about Cape Coral so I can serve better. Coming soon, if you don't know, we are once again one of the best high schools according to U.S. News rankings in the county. I can't imagine why we wouldn't be. We just have stellar academics and programs for our students. What's coming soon for us? We're going to host our own college fair in October. We're going to bring colleges like UF and all of the greatest right to our school cafe so our 160 seniors can talk to colleges and have those firsthand conversations. We're bringing Full Sail University to our school to support our STEM initiative. They're going to be putting their hands on some really cool robotic items and games and just incredible STEM stuff that's way higher than what we are right now because it's that collegiate level. So our students are going to get that incredible exposure right hands-on in our gym. If you can see our students, they just sent me this picture today. They're working on building the set for Midsummer Jersey that will be coming in October. That'll be our play we'll be hosting. And then over there to the left, we're finalizing our tentative academic ceremonies for the entire year, all the way down to when our graduation rehearsal practices, etc. are, and we'll be putting that up on the website. We've just finalized that as well. So, and the quarterly newsletter. McKenna, Craig, and I are going to start working on that now that we've finished the brochure. So we're looking to send that out at the end of the quarter to all of our families and put it on our website and to the community and to you, so you can see all the positive things that we've been doing during quarter one, and to make sure that parents are informed of what's going to be happening in quarter two. So that'll be coming soon, and that's about it. But it's just been an exciting, very, very, very busy, fast run since I got here in July 1, right? Yeah. And I'm just learning. Every time I learn something new, when I sit with these fine administrators, they share something new with me, and it's just an exciting place to be. I could not be more thankful for this opportunity, and I thank Jackie Collins every time I get the chance. So, anybody have any questions about what's going on at Oasis High? Yes?
It's not a question, but a comment. I'm so excited to see you embracing our school that way that you've done. Your excitement, it exudes you. Like, everybody can feel it. I think that translates down to the students, and they can feel it as well. I've heard them talking about it, so we're expecting great things from you, and thank you for coming to our school.
Other questions?
Thank you so much for your time.
Which is what? So, how did we rank in U.S. News?
We were one of 6 schools that was recognized in the county. And do you remember what number we were? 11. In Lee County.
So
there's a lot of statistics that's involved in that ranking.
Right. And I think, is there another ranking in Lee County? Because it's always surprising that as stellar as we are, is it how many parents get a chance to vote, or what? Do you know any of those? Yeah.
I don't think she understands what this board is.
I think the reason we don't score at the very top, they base it on, Kathleen, you can add to this, they base it on, one of the factors is how many AP courses are offered in each school. We don't offer AP courses, we offer ACE. So that brings us down quite a bit because those courses are not part of our activity. If we did, we would probably.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great. Thank you.
And that's why in Lee County we're 11, but in the city of Cape Coral we're number 2 because numerically those AP courses, Cape High, they just leave us alone because they offer those courses. Not because our children or students are not academically independent, but it's just they actually take those tests and pass.
Good point. All right, so no unfinished business, new business?
Okay, item 15A is, we're going to talk about the approval of the joint use interlocal agreement between the charter schools and the city of Cape Coral. We tabled this conversation last time, I believe, to change some language. And the language is found on page 5 of the agreement under item number 7, safety. The language has been changed to read that during school hours, our school resource officers at Oasis North, assistant principals and teachers may ask anyone not affiliated with the charter school to leave parts or areas of Jim Jeffers Park being utilized by us during the school day. In addition, our officers, meaning the resource officers, principals, and administration and teachers, are allowed to trespass individuals not affiliated with the CSA from the park in case of a threat to the public safety or welfare. Generally, this agreement allows us to use Jim Jeffers Park as an extension of the campus. We can monitor it, we can secure it. We are also adding more Centrix monitors so that our buttons, our panic buttons, work in that area, and that our SRO has the ability to therefore walk to the park as part of the school campus to monitor that area. Otherwise, he would not be able to leave the physical building. So we are very happy with the way the agreement looks. We were hoping that the governing board would, we're recommending that you give your approval so that the city council can also approve it.
Someone like to make a motion?
A motion to approve.
Second? Any? Motion and second?
And the second?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Request for approval.
Okay, next item is item 15B. We are requesting approval for Oasis Elementary North of their school-wide improvement plan. I'm going to introduce Principal Kevin Brown to explain the reason behind the plan and what the plan goals are.
Good evening, Kevin Brown, Principal of Oasis Elementary North. So the Bureau of School Improvement, based off our 21-22 scores, so this is kind of fun, since our 5th graders that year now are in 7th grade, and our 4th graders are now in 6th grade, so it's based off of those statistics. They set forth they want 41% of our ESE population, that was the subcategory that we did not hit, to be proficient. Now what does proficient mean? That means a level 3 on the FSA at the time. Now that can be a challenge, so if that student comes in and they're traditionally a 1A, that means the lowest score you can score, so you have a 1A, a 1B, a 1C, a level 2, 2A, 2B, and then you have a level 3. So if that student comes to us in, say, 5th grade and they're a 1B, this is still saying that we need to try to get them to a level 3. Traditionally, how the school, how the state of Florida ranks us is based on learning gains for those students. So this is a different piece, so I'll kind of explain to you how we did. So we scored 35%, and we needed to be at 41%. So that means we missed it by 1 student. According to the data we had, this was the only year that we did not make it, so we have to do this school improvement plan, which I'll kind of touch on what we're going to do. But also I just wanted to mention that our ELA scores during this time period for the 21-22 school year for our lowest 25% of our students, so that's how we typically measure our goals and what we want to do. 59% of those students make gains. So that means, let's just for simple math, we have 100 students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade each, so 300 students. And so we look at for lack of better terms, the students that struggle the most, 25 from each grade level. And those are the ones that we look at to make gains. So if you look at our 59% to Lee County's 36%, we far exceed. We just happen to miss it by 1 student with the proficiency. That's what this Bureau was looking at. So what are we going to do? So I've already met with our interventionist team. We have went back to, we call them T classes, transitional classes at our school. So we've always had them at 1st grade and 2nd grade, and what a transitional class is for students that we do not want to retain. They have a lot of really strong factors of their learning, but they have some learning gaps that we want to try to fill in for them. So we've always kind of done K-2, now we're doing 3rd through 5th grade. And in this classroom, they're a little bit smaller classrooms, so instead of having maybe 21 or 22 students, they might have 20. So in 4th grade, we have 20 students in the class instead of 24. 5th grade, we have 20 students instead of 25 per class. And in that classroom, they have 2 certified teachers working with them. So it's a much smaller ratio than what you would see in a traditional class of 1 to 20. So that's more of a 1 to 10 kind of ratio. Third grade right now, I believe, has 18, so that's 1 to 9 kind of ratio. So we're hitting them with that as much as we possibly can. We do have a new ESE teacher. Her name is Natalie Hershaft. She's been an ESE teacher here for, she was for a couple years. She went back into the classroom. So Natalie is 16 years here. She's done kindergarten, she's done 2nd grade, she's done 5th grade, she's done ESE. She is a wonderful, wonderful resource at our school, a very strong leader in our school, and I'm very happy to have her in that position to help our kids. And as I said before, we met with our interventionist team, so we already made this plan. The interventionist team includes those teachers that teach those transitional classrooms. So we went over our data, kind of what we have here at the school now, because like I said, some of those students are now in 7th grade. So we just looked at our current population, and that's what we based it off of.
Any questions? Yes.
I'll just talk loud. Do you think that so this was 2021, 2022, do you think that COVID and the students being out and then being in hybrid and all the things that happened, do you think that had an impact?
I think we're still seeing that today, currently. And I think that's just whatever, we kind of had this conversation today at our principal meeting. Whatever industry you're in, I think we're still seeing it. So whatever it is, we've all kind of changed a little bit, maybe not for the best, but we're all working for it. What our teachers do every day for our kids, we're always looking at data, we're always trying to do what's best for our kids here. That's why traditionally we score extremely high. We still scored extremely high this year. We were one of the high, I think we got 2nd in the complete Lee County that year. It just so happened we missed it by 1 kid in a subgroup for this school improvement plan. So that's the only difference right now is we're writing it down in the school improvement plan, but we do this every year anyways and look at all of our kids and make sure that we can do what we need for them. Thank you for the question. Yes.
Just really quick, you mentioned that you have the transitional classes 3rd, 4th, and 5th this year.
Yes.
Are you anticipating keeping that to support some of those students?
Yes, I would absolutely love that. It comes down to funding, and we'll take that look at that budget. But if we can keep that, I feel the more certified teachers we have in our school, the better for our kids. But you know how that works with budget. We will do everything I can to make sure that we do that for our staff. So I'm going to sit down with Cassandra and Andrea and Mr. Mason here, and we'll do what we can for the students. Thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need a motion to approve the school improvement plan for Oasis Elementary North.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. Item 15C, we are requesting approval of the Oasis Middle School School-wide Improvement Plan. Here is Donnie Hopper to present his plan for you.
Good evening, everybody. Donnie Hopper, principal at Oasis Middle. We are in the same situation of not making that target for the subgroup of students with disabilities. 31% of our students, that's wrong, 32% of our students made the target. We have to get to the same target of 41%. So again, a laser focus on those students. Not that we haven't had that in the past. I think COVID has played a part, but we have missed that target for 3 years. And we are the highest performing middle school in Lee County. There's no one that does better academically than our students. So super proud of the work our teachers do. And like Kevin said, it can be 2 or 3 students that impact this target. That doesn't mean we don't stop. It's 5% of our student population, but they need the most support. They have intensive teachers that work with them, interventionists. I have a reading interventionist, a math interventionist, where some of these students get extra support on top of their regular math and reading class. We have 2 ESE paraprofessionals that are actually, one's a certified teacher and one will be a certified teacher by the end of the school year, working with those students to make sure they get the accommodations that they need. We're still looking for an ESE teacher. We've always had an ESE resource teacher in place. That person that we've had left and went to Florida State University for an opportunity, so we are still looking to fill that position. Finding teachers these days is extremely challenging, even when you're the best. Listen to what we've done. When you hear from Jackie at the high school, and we know our elementary schools are fantastic, we know the middle school's great, still 0 applicants for some of the jobs that we post. So really tough to find people. We need to fill that position so we have all of the resources taken care of. The plan calls for us to write a goal. We want to get at least 50% of our students at that mark of being proficient, whether they have disabilities or not. 50%, they need to be there in reading and math, and for our lowest 25%. So I think one thing that changed this year is we started with this topic as the laser focus. This is the group of students. There are about 40 of them. The teachers know who they are, they know the accommodations that are necessary, and they are going to go after those students to see the movement that we need. And forget the target from the state and the Bureau of School Improvement and ESSA and all of the pieces that come into it. It's the right thing to do for kids, to make sure that they are ready to move on to the next grade, and in some cases on to high school, and be prepared to tackle the content they're going to see down the road. We need to get them reading closer to grade level, doing math closer to grade level, so that they can be successful in their future endeavors in school. So again, that's our goal, to get at least 50% of the students to where they need to be. Also want to put in perspective, in Lee County, just for our world, 60% of schools did not meet these targets. So there are a lot of schools in the same boat. Again, doesn't make it right, but it points to what are the factors, and we want to look at how are we here? What are we doing that we need to change? And I think that's a good thing for all educators, to keep growing, to keep pulling out the strategies and the resources that can help. We are also doing the Kagan Cooperative Learning because the brain research is so clear that students must, not should, must be talking to each other, whether it's your lowest of the low to your highest of the high. They need to be mixing, sharing ideas, asking questions of each other, not just of the teacher. So that change in our direction, the way we group students, has been a big part of what we're doing this year. So we have a school improvement plan. It's in front of you as well and needs to be approved tonight.
Great. Question?
Yep. Not so much question, comment again, but I think that analysis that 5% of the students are ESE, but they need the most resources. I think that's incredibly profound and true as well. So I know at the moment we don't have an ESE teacher, and I see that we're trying everything we can to do it. But I think it's imperative that we have one. So I look forward to progress that we keep making, and I'm glad to see that we're really pulling out all the stops to get that teacher in place. So hopefully that happens soon.
For sure.
Other comments? Okay, so we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the plan?
Second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Great, thank you.
Okay, last item, 15D. We are requesting for approval of the amended Oasis Charter Schools instructional calendar for this year. We had, as you know, due to Tropical Storm Idalia, we were off for a full day plus a half a day. So we need to make up this time in the rest of our school year. We have 2 hurricane days already built into Lee County's calendar. They chose to use one. I think they're saving the second one in the spring, just in case we have another storm. So we would like to alter the calendar to reflect that on December 21st, when we have a half day scheduled, we call it an early release day, we changed that to a full day. And also on December 22nd, which was a day off for students, that we make it a full day. So with the day and a half that we're adding to this calendar, we have made up the time that we have lost. After school, before and after school programs at the elementary schools will be in effect on those days. We've clarified that with Parks and Rec. So there shouldn't be any disruption to childcare for our elementary school students. So I'm asking the board, unless there are any questions, that you approve the amended calendar for the school year 2022-2024.
And just confirming, is this following Lee County's, what Lee County did?
Lee County, they did something a little different. They They extended one of their early release days in October to make it a full day. We didn't do that because we have a guest speaker coming that day for the leadership team and for the instructional staff.
And then they move back to December, which we follow.
And then they also added those 2 days in December. Now, we had an early release day scheduled for one of the days that we missed for the storm. So we only had to make up a half a day. The county had to make up an additional half day. So we're okay with just our 2 days.
Motion to approve the amended calendar?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, motion carries. All right. Final board comment. Sure.
I'd like to share with the board that I was able to accommodate a Dolphin charter bus. Good evening, board. I was able to help accommodate something very, very exciting, and I'd like to extend that invitation to the board and guests in the audience, high schoolers, everybody. On September 30th, also the mayor's scholarship program, but the JROTC is going to be going to the honor flight on 7 p.m. A Dolphin charter bus will be picking them up. There's a total of 55 passengers. I will get a final count from Lieutenant Terrell Morrow, and once I receive that, I will send it over to the board. If there is available seats, and if you would like to go, please let us know, and I can actually put that onto the board.
Could you explain what the honor flight is?
Oh, yes. So the honor flight is something very exciting that's actually come from Washington, and if you haven't been to one of these, I actually haven't personally, but I've seen and heard about it. But it's really a fun time where we can honor the vets coming off of the planes and going back to their homes. The other thing is too, I understand that JROTC is going to be doing color guards as well. So any questions besides that?
So we're going to be in the audience in the evening when the veteran that has been selected to take a trip to Washington DC to see all the monuments, they'll be returning about 8:30 that evening, and we'll be there to welcome them back.
Perfect.
So if you'd like to join us, and we have seats on the bus, you're welcome to fill some of those seats.
Thank you. Thanks for organizing that. All right, any comments? Nope.
I'd like to start by welcoming our new members, the parent members. I think that's it's a job that's undervalued, that we maybe don't utilize as much on the board as we probably should. So I would like to extend the invitation to please be part of the discussion. Don't feel that your input isn't needed, because it is. You're hearing directly from the parents, which then relates to us. And sometimes there's a gap there that we don't always get. I sat as a parent rep before, and I'll admit I didn't do a very good job with that gap, but I'm hoping that you can do better than me, and we can get more input from the parents. So please, we welcome you, and please, you can't vote, but every other aspect, you're part of the board. So please be vocal, let us know what you're thinking, let us know what the parents are thinking as well. Okay? I'd also like to thank our partners with the city for taking your time out and coming here. I know that you're also missing dinner and family time. I know that this isn't volunteer for you guys, and you gotta come here anyways, and we really do appreciate that. A lot of people think that the charter school is two separate things. It's a separate entity from the city, but I don't think that it necessarily is. I think we were built by the city for the city. I think that the community members in our city are the stakeholders as a result of what we've built. So I think that, we are not separate entities. I think we are one. And I am very thankful for the collaboration we've had since you've taken over a lot of the burdens for us as well. So thank you for being here and taking the time out of your days as well. We really do appreciate it. So I'd also like to shout out to the Sharks, undefeated. Like that's unbelievable. What a buzz. I went to the home opener game. It was so much fun. It was, the excitement was just, you could feel it in there, so, go Sharks.
I'm actually just going to piggyback off what you said. I am so excited to get a copy of that brochure, so I hope at the, whenever you get them, if we can get one at the meeting, because it just looked absolutely amazing.
I have probably said enough tonight, so.
No. Please don't feel that way.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I'd like to thank Mark Mason and Mark Moriarty for assisting us with these two leases. I think it was a very good, lively discussion. And sincerely, when all of us are engaged in the direction that we need to go on a particular issue, that means, you know, we're thinking it through well. So I appreciate all that. And for our legal expertise on the board, thank you so much, because it was definitely helpful for those that don't have that background to get your points of view, so greatly appreciated. And the fact that one of our board members, along with Mr. Moriarty, will review those leases. Thank you for taking that extra time to get that, and we look forward to our decision in about a week. And it's great to be here at Oasis Elementary North, so thank you for hosting us. Sincerely, these are probably the best board meetings because we're in the element that we should be. And we appreciate everything that you do, but sometimes when you're at city council, you don't get that full sense and connectedness, so thank you for that. And with that, our next, see, I remembered it. Our next regular, this is the first time I've ever done it, and my term's almost over, so, will be held on Tuesday, October 10th, 5:30 at Cape Coral City Council Chambers. And with that,